There's this classic episode of The Simpsons. It's called Simpson and Delilah. And Homer finds this hair tonic called Damoxinil in the classified section. He uses it once, he wakes up with a full head of hair, gets a promotion at work, and suddenly everyone respects him.
I feel like I know where this is going.
Yeah, so a bit later in that same episode, during a presentation in front of everybody, at the worst possible moment, all the hair falls out.
Classic.
And so here's what's kind of stuck with me. Like, no one in the episode asked, wait, is Homer even a good candidate for what he's about to do? He just did it because it existed and he wanted hair and it seemed like an easy thing to do. And there was like no doctor to help him along the way to say, hey, is this actually going to give you what you want?
I mean, this sounds similar to about 30% of the consults I run.
And that's going to be basically our whole episode today.
I want hair. I have a credit card. When do we start? Half my job is just explaining that there's more to it than that.
Indeed. This is the Above the Hairline podcast coming to you from the land of 10,000 hair follicles in beautiful Minneapolis at the offices of the Hair Restoration Institute in Minnesota. Our mission here is to improve lives and restore confidence through thick, healthy hair. If you're considering hair restoration, we invite you to schedule a free consultation by visiting HRIMN.com. We have both in-person and virtual options available. I'm Nate.
And I'm Alec. Today we're talking about candidacy. What actually makes someone a good fit for a hair transplant? And what doctors are checking before they'll say yes.
Because it turns out the yes is really not the default answer.
Really isn't.
Okay, so paint me a picture. Like walk me through, a patient. We'll say no names, obviously.
Never names.
A patient who comes in thinking that this is a done deal.
Yeah, so let's say there's this guy, Jake. He's in his mid-20s. He works in software. He comes in with a photo saved on his phone.
Please tell me it's not Chalamet.
It's always some Chalamet-adjacent situation. Low, dense hairline, zero recession at the temples.
Okay.
And Jake's already decided, money saved. He's read 400 Reddit threads. He knows what FUE stands for. He's ready to book today.
So what's the problem? He wants hair and you do hair.
Well, here's the problem. I asked him one question before we even look at his scalp. Does anyone else in your family have significant hair loss?
And
his dad's completely bald by 50. Both grandfathers on his mom's side, too. Classic advanced baldness territory, and he's only 26.
So he's not bald yet, but the writing's kind of on the wall.
Genetically, yeah. And that one detail changes everything about what I'm going to tell him.
So break this down for me, because from where I'm sitting, some hair loss runs in the family doesn't sound like a reason to say no. I mean, if we exclude everyone that had hair loss in the family, who would ever get treatment here?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a reason to say no objectively. It's a reason to slow down. There's a framework I come back with constantly. 4 things have to line up for a transplant to actually work. Understanding what the patient wants and just, getting an understanding of their goals, doing a real examination, and the surgery's ability to actually meet that expectation and then executing on it. Most consults fall apart on step 1 or 2, not because the surgery itself is hard.
Okay, so walk me through this exam part. What are you actually looking at and looking for?
Yeah, so we're kind of splitting up the scalp into 2 zones. So that would be the recipient area where the hair loss is occurring, usually on the top of the head, and then the donor region in the back and sides where we actually take the follicles from. Donor's the one people never really think about.
I mean, why is that?
Well, because it's finite. You have a set number of grafts in the back of your head for your entire life. There's no restocking. If I spend all of it on a 26-year-old's frontal hairline today and things keep receding for the next 20 years,
then you've basically spent his budget on year 1 of a problem that's going to run decades.
Exactly. And that's before we get into what just rules someone out entirely.
And what would that be?
Age is a big one. We generally don't operate on anyone under 20 because the pattern hasn't fully declared itself yet. Active scalp disease, alopecia areata, trichotillomania, compulsive hair pulling is what that is. Those are off the table because a transplant into unstable ground just fails. And then there's the one that's honestly the hardest conversation to have.
And what's that?
Body dysmorphic disorder. When someone's distress about their hair is unrealistic to what's actually there, a full head of hair and they're convinced they look bald, that's not a hair problem. Surgery doesn't fix it, and operating on someone like that can actually make things worse, not better.
I mean, that's a hard thing to tell someone who's already, paid a deposit somewhere.
It is, and honestly, this is where it gets kind of ugly out there. You've probably seen the threads.
The Turkey stuff?
Turkey, Florida, wherever. There's a post going around on r/hair transplants this week, and basically a whole guy's account of getting burned at a Florida clinic. bad density, unnatural hairline, the works. 90 some upvotes, dozens of comments, everyone in the replies horrified.
So what actually went wrong there from what you can tell?
So reading between the lines sounds like nobody ever did a real exam. No honest donor assessment, no conversation about whether his pattern was even stable yet. Somebody just said yes because he had a card to swipe.
So the 4 elements thing isn't just theory, it's also the difference between a good result and one of those, nasty threads.
That's exactly it.
Okay. So real quick, if you're listening from outside of Minnesota and are looking at getting a hair transplant done, I encourage you to go ahead and check out our Hair by Air program here at the Hair Restoration Institute of Minnesota. What it does is it allows people from all across the country to fly in to the Twin Cities, get their hair transplant done. We help cover $200 of your travel expenses, have an airport shuttle, an on-site hotel. We had a person come in from Charlotte, North Carolina last week. We got someone coming in from Seattle this week. All the time, people from outstate and driving distance come in. And it's a really great program because we can ensure that they get really top quality hair transplant results. We've been around for 30 years. We know our way around someone's scalp. And also just it kind of gets them on their way. We don't have to open up many different clinics all across the country. We can be really excellent at one thing. You can think of it like you might fly to Broadway to see a show over there, or fly to like a really great restaurant to experience that. Like you can come here to the Twin Cities. We make it super easy for you and get the hair that you've always wanted. So you can go ahead and check it out by visiting abovethehairline.com. There's some information there. And also in our show notes, we go over that as well. So yeah.
I'd say it's worth it just for the in-flight snacks.
The flight on Delta, especially the snacks, they're doing a lot of our marketing work these days.
All right, so back to Jake.
Right. This is the Chalamet guy.
Chalamet guy. I don't tell him no. I tell him not yet. His pattern isn't stable yet. With that family history, waiting for more of it to show up before we design around it is a responsible move.
So what's the actual plan?
Any good clinic should do this. Medical therapy first. Finasteride, minoxidil, depending on what he's comfortable with, for at least a year, sometimes longer, while we watch how the pattern naturally progresses. We're not designing some low, dense, forever hairline today, because if we do, and he keeps losing hair around it for the next 15 years, that hairline starts to look obviously fake as the rest of his hair changes around it.
Got it. So for a young guy, under 25, first step, we want to control the hair loss first. There's a bunch of tools that are out there that allow us to do that. Once it's controlled, then we can work with the rest of it. And the downside of not doing this, you get that kind of gradient thing that you mentioned to me before we started recording.
Right. Density up front, tapering back, planned with room for the fact that you might need a second or third session down the road. We're not trying to build for the photo that he showed me. We're building for him at 45.
And Jake took this okay?
Eventually. I mean, nobody loves hearing not today when they're already mentally ready to move forward, but that's the job. The exam isn't a formality before we get to say yes. Sometimes the exam is the answer.
And so how often are you having this conversation with young people? When I think about like mismatched expectations, normally what I'm thinking about is the other end of the spectrum. It's an older guy who's had a lot of hair loss. He's got a teeny tiny donor area, what we would typically call a Norwood level 7.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly all across the board. I mean, it's just genetics. Some people are predispositioned. I mean, some people are thinning in high school, you know what I mean? And they got the big thick beard and stuff like that. So, and that's very tough to go through maybe in your early 20s. I'd say it is a lot more common with, older gentlemen to have that like Norwood 7 and like a tiny donor area. Usually like the younger patients have enough donor. And if we catch this thing before it spreads even more without any, preventative therapy, they certainly have a shot at having a full head of hair.
So for the older guys who are that Norwood 7 that have that Homer Simpson style hairline, it's more about really understanding like what does success look like for you and can we achieve that given the limited parameters we have? And then for guys like Jake, it's like we can get you where you want to go today, but is this going to be the right result for you long term, or do we also have to add in some medical therapies to help us out?
Yeah, exactly right. And I will say, just because you might be a Norwood 7 and are older, it doesn't disqualify you from doing a transplant procedure. We just have to have realistic expectations about the graft distribution so that it looks natural and you get the coverage you're looking for.
Gotcha. All right. Now let's transition to our next segment, which is about our blogs. Before we let Jake go fully off the hook, our quick hit on the blog. It's basically the same lesson that Jake is learning, but it's wearing a different lab coat. And that's the title of this blog post is called "Does Exosome Therapy Actually Work for Hair Loss? What the Evidence Shows."
This one's going to be good.
So there's this viral story going around. There's this burn patient who did exosome therapy, and they had incredible results on their skin recovery. I mean, like, it was all over her face, and you saw. I mean, it was terrible, frankly. And then after therapy, I mean, it really was a life-changing result. I mean, you couldn't tell this person had the level of burns that she had before. And so a lot of people are chalking this up as some kind of like miracle treatment. And, someone who has hair loss, say, or is in this hair loss world might see those photos and they would ask the obvious question of, if I were to try exosomes, what might happen for me?
It's a fair question. I mean, the honest answer is skin and hair just aren't the same problem. Skin's a wound closing. It has one job. Miniaturized follicle needs to be tucked back into the full growth cycle. So it's just different biology, harder job.
So it works, but it's just not quite as dramatic.
Yeah, so the results we're seeing are actually pretty dramatic, much more dramatic than PRP in the past, but less than a hair transplant. We've been kind of thinking about it as an adjunct for those Norwood class 5 and up who need to close the recipient area or boost the available number of follicles in their donor area. You can see some before and afters on our website. We actually just had a patient come in 6 months before and after. He did one exosome treatment, and it looks like we transplanted him. I mean, I can't even believe the results.
Yeah, I actually had to look up his chart and make sure that we didn't do a transplant on him because it was so night and day different. And, people are all different. They all react differently, so there's that. But I think what we are seeing is that there are these very promising results that are coming out there. And so my question, to you, Alec, is what do you think people need to understand before they choose to do exosomes?
Concentration, sourcing, the stuff nobody thinks to ask about before they get the injection. At HRI, we're transparent about it. We use the EV Pure line from Vidilabs. It's a 4.5 milliliter vial, and it has 75 billion particles per treatment. We pair it with a hair metric scan so you can actually see whether it's doing anything.
So you can ask the numbers and not just the brand name.
Every time. Full breakdowns on the blog, links in the show notes, or head to HRIMN.com/blog.
All right, so turning to our hair trend of the week, this one's a good follow-up to everything that we just talked about with Jake.
Go.
So on r/Trestless, this is on Reddit, someone 3 months into finasteride, they were taking 1.5 milligrams, and they did 2 years of minoxidil. They're posting about how they suddenly had a lot of hair shedding. And the title was basically really brutal shedding now, and had 115 comments.
It's a classic panic post with minoxidil.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this post 1,000 times. But here's the interesting part. The thread actually landed somewhere this week. It was more productive than how the story normally goes. And there's a fairly strong consensus, and that's aggressive early shed after starting or adjusting therapy is usually a good sign and not a bad one, and you should reassess around 12 months, according to the commenters.
I mean, yeah, that tracks. It's called synchronized shedding. The medication pushes a batch of resting hairs out early so a healthier growth cycle can start underneath. It looks alarming in the shower, but it's actually the treatment working.
So Reddit got this one right this time.
Directionally, yeah, but reassess at 12 months shouldn't mean 12 months of guessing on your own. That's exactly the kind of thing where a quick scalp analysis settles it in 5 minutes instead of 5 months of doom scrolling a thread.
So legitimately reassuring information with an asterisk, and that's like, come let us look, instead of counting hairs in the drain. And we have that hair metrics device that allows us to really quantify exactly how much hair you have at a specific moment.
Right. It should be done like that every time.
Okay. And so our last segment now is the unanswered question of the week. This is our last one. This one's basically today's episode, but it's playing out live in the wild.
This can't be good.
So this is a post on r/Trestless on Reddit again. It's called "Finally Did My Hair Transplant at Age 21." There's 253 comments, which is the biggest comment count of the week across all the different subs that we track. And buried under all the congratulations is a real never settled question. And that is there an actual minimum age for a transplant, or is telling young guys to wait just gatekeeping?
So what'd they land on?
Nowhere. It was straight down the middle. Half them saying fine if he's stable on meds, half them saying you're guaranteed to look bad age 35. There's no consensus, no framework, just two camps. I guess they're all speaking from their own kind of personal life experience, but they're just yelling past each other.
Okay, so let's actually give it the framework. It's not like are you old enough thing. Has your pattern told us what it's actually going to do yet? Same things we look at with every candidate. What you want, a real exam of both zones, whether we can honestly deliver that, and then execution.
So a 21-year-old could be a genuine yes.
Generally, we advise waiting to do the front hairline until someone is 25. However, if they have been compliant with finasteride or dutasteride for several years and are seeing no progression in their hair loss, our doctors can consider those clients on a case-by-case basis. If a client is seeing progressing hair loss and cannot commit to the prevention regimen, then the best thing for them is to indeed what our doctors do is to decline the case.
And so that's the entire reason why we don't skip this exam, because someone's excited and ready to book, but there are also cases where people might have hair loss that's not caused by AGA. Maybe they have just a naturally high hairline, or they have some, birth condition that, has a big bald spot in the front. That's not something that we would be worried about. We can obviously work on those cases, right?
Absolutely. Come on in and we'll tell you which camp you're actually in, not what you want to be in.
So that thread didn't get the real answer, but we here gave him one. So that's the value of a consultation, instead of asking random people on the internet what they should do.
Yeah. Busy episode.
All right. So in closing, Jake's on his meds, and we've apparently already diagnosed half of Reddit today. And so next time we're going to be getting into the procedure itself. So FUE versus strip, what those letters actually mean, and why people fight about it like it's some kind of pro sports rivalry.
Looking forward to it. Bring the popcorn.
So I'm Nate.
And I'm Alec.
And this has been Above the Hairline. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.